All right, Resident Evil 9 just did something ridiculous. Capcom is saying Requiem crossed 5 million units in under a week. And I know the timeline whenever this type of thing happens. People celebrate for 2 days and then the real discourse starts. Because when a franchise hits hard, the next game gets harder, not easier, especially with Resident Evil. So the question isn't, is Resident Evil 9 good? The question is, what does this kind of success force Capcom to do next? Do they play it safe and continue this winning formula? Or do they risk changing what everybody just fell in love with? Now, I love Resident Evil 9. I played through it the day it came out, beat it the next day. Shit was fire, all right? I love the fact that they fused both the horror gameplay and the action gameplay essentially into one game where you get the best of both worlds with Resident Evil. All starting with Resident Evil 7. When that came out, it was a return to form for the series. It was in first person, but it was a return to a evil residency, an evil resident, whatever. But it was a return to form for the series, back to survival horror, resource management and whatnot, after the games kind of lost their way with Resident Evil 6. And ever since then, they've just been pumping out banger after banger after mid after banger after banger, you know what I mean? And Resident Evil 9 is just next in line with these bangers. Let's start with the receipts. Capcom put out a press release saying Resident Evil Requiem passed 5 million sales units worldwide. And the thing that sticks out to me with that is horror games don't usually get this kind of mainstream day one energy unless something is really clicking. But what's clicking, right? It really has to do with the best of both worlds. Resident Evil has always been split. One side wants pure survival horror, the other side wants that RE4 style action type of shit. Resident Evil 9 basically said, why does it have to be one or the other? Let's just get both. You get the fear and you get the action, and it's not a messy compromise. On top of that, Capcom is straight up talking about giving people options, difficulty settings, and even switching perspectives, which is crazy. Like, being able to switch between first and third person is incredible. You know what I mean? It changes the game, and the game plays just as good in both perspectives, which is different to RE8, which actually introduced being able to change your perspective from first and third person. But I find that playing RE8 in third person is a little weird. You know, the game is clearly not designed with that in mind, whereas this one is. The second reason is trust within the fan base, which is something that Capcom has earned over this last decade of their releases. Not even just with Resident Evil. I feel like Capcom has come back in every aspect from their Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 day with all of their franchises. Street Fighter, Devil May Cry, of course Resident Evil, topic of this video. The only franchise that I feel like they really dropped the ball on was Dead Rising, unfortunately. Dead Rising 4 was fucking terrible. Dead Rising 3 was also like but that was still like the dark era at Capcom. But even like modern day, like the Dead Rising remake wasn't really all that great, but we're talking about positive things, right? Positive things. They've been able to cultivate trust in the fan base with all of these Resident Evil games that's coming out. Each one has been widely received with critical acclaim, save for Resident Evil 3, but even that one people acknowledge is a good game, but a bad remake. And that kind of trust is rare. It comes from consistency and it comes from polish. It comes from not dropping broken games and asking people to wait 6 months for it to be acceptable, or dropping full price games with microtransactions built into them. Now, the Resident Evil games do have microtransactions in them, but usually it's just like little side content or full-fledged DLC releases of other campaigns that you can play through, which used to be free inside of the game. Like, for example, Resident Evil 4 remake dropped separate ways as a DLC release instead of having it included into the full package of the game, whereas like in the original game on the PS2 it was already in the game. Like, you could just play that after you beat the game, but it is what it is. Now here's the part that I don't think a lot of people want to talk about. Success creates a trap, right? Because when something works, the easiest thing is to copy paste it. And the fastest way to make me stop caring about a franchise is when it starts copying itself. I don't want Resident Evil to become the MCU of survival horror. You know, just a bunch of callbacks, multiversal shit. Now, it already has been in that place with Resident Evil 6, right? And I think Capcom has learned from their mistakes with that game and bringing back all of the protagonists and just having it be this over bloated mess. They've tended to, you know, lower the stakes of the plots, you know, only focus on like one or two main characters, a villain. Like every Resident Evil game, besides the remakes, have been decently simple. I mean, Resident Evil 8 was kind of crazy, but you get what I'm saying. If it makes it hard to make the next game, and I know it's only been a couple weeks, why are we talking about Resident Evil 10? But I am thinking about that because the cast is getting older. Leon is like 50 years old in this game. Chris is around the same age. Jill, even though she has some anti-aging thing going on, she's still like up there. You know, all of the major badass protagonists in the series are getting older or are just completely forgotten. So it just makes me wonder, where do we go with Resident Evil 10? You know what I mean? They had a lot of missed opportunities as far as protagonists with even Ethan Winters. I mean, you have his daughter who could be doing something in the next game, but you killed him off at the end of Resident Evil 8. Spoiler alert, my bad, but you've had a couple years to play that. You know, I feel like they dropped the ball by killing Wesker as early as they did in Resident Evil 5. I feel like he could have been a really prominent antagonist for the series, even past that game. And you have Wesker like lookalikes with this Xeno dude. I don't know what they were trying to do with him. I feel like that whole aspect of Resident Evil 9 was a little underdeveloped to where it's antagonists. That's why it's like they might hit a wall moving forward with this series. And I feel like there's 3 ways that they could go with this. You know, they could refine the hybrid formula, you know, keep the both sides thing, you know, have like a weaker, more human protagonist like Grace, and then you have the action-packed badass gameplay of like a Chris Redfield or a Leon Kennedy. You could switch between them and that could be what it is. But I feel like there's a little bit of a risk continuing that, given that this game is kind of like a lightning in a bottle scenario where it all just clicked. You know what I mean? Like, there are some people who think it's a little bit too much Grace, a little bit too much Leon, but the way that it comes together and just kind of works. And I feel like if you just keep doing that, it's a little weird. Another option that they could do is you could use the remakes and the spin-offs to test out any of the weird shit. Let the mainline games be the safe hits, let the side projects be the experiments. They're saying that they might remake, I mean, it's all but confirmed that Code Veronica is going to be the next remake, and that would be cool. So you could test different things with that. Maybe a dodge button, because that's one thing that I feel like Leon's gameplay in Resident Evil 9 kind of lacks, is like mobility. And you know, he's a 50-year-old man, so that's kind of what it is, but it also just makes it feel a little clunky sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, that's it for me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Resident Evil 9's success could end up being its failure? Do you think that it's gonna affect the series in a negative or a positive way? Let me know in the comments, please and thank you. And also, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed my other 2 videos, anything like that, please subscribe, like up, whatever you want to do. I'm gonna be posting semi-regularly on this channel, just talking about different gaming topics and whatnot. So if you like hearing me talk about these things, please subscribe. I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.